RKW 104.5 The Zone rolls on hour number 2 of this fine Friday morning. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined by our good friend Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's and On 3 out of Knoxville, talking some Tennessee football, maybe a little bit of hoops as well. Brent, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody's doing well there and had a great Christmas, and all kinds of other good things happened to them over the last few days, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, somebody in particular had something great happen, Brent.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's about time you got that taken care of.
I know. Well, look, Brent, we're just very blessed and thankful that God blessed me with someone willing to put up with this for the rest of their lives.
You were flirting long enough for give her a chance to get out of jail on that deal, man. Good deal on your part, but get that thing taken care of.
That's right.
Good.
You're exactly right. There is no doubt about it. We are very thankful.
Hey, your laughing is all we could do leaving Ohio Stadium on Saturday, okay?
We need more than a pickup man this morning.
Yeah.
It was rough. I'm telling you right now.
It was. My only regret is I couldn't find you, Hubbs. That's it.
Well, you couldn't find me because I was wrapped like a mummy up there trying to stay warm for what I was trying to do.
And also,
sure.
Ramon was caught in the terrible bathroom lines at Ohio Stadium for about a quarter and a half at one point. So it was hard for him to find anyone but a line that was not moving.
I'll never complain about the troughs again. You hear me?
I feel you 100%. I think the troughs are going away, but I totally get it. And again, all that stuff is magnified when it's 21-0 and the team you're there to watch and cheer for is struggling the way that Tennessee did out of the gates, man. That was as bad of the first quarter as we've seen in a long time.
Oh.
So, Brent, let's start there with this Tennessee team. But why was the gap just so big between Tennessee and Ohio State? I know, obviously, Ohio State has something to do with that and the way they bounced back from their loss to Michigan. But what was the biggest reason why you felt like Tennessee was just kind of played off the field in this game?
Well, I think it started with how the game started. I mean, you needed a good start if you were Tennessee. You appeared to have the 3-and-out. And then you had the penalty, and then Ohio State really got into some of their stuff and got going. And, we talked about it last week. I thought one of the things that Chip Kelly would do against Tennessee is take some of that Bobby Petrino stuff that Arkansas used and some of the sideways stuff and the misdirection stuff and use it to their advantage. And, they hit they hit receivers on the move, on the underneath stuff and really taxed Tennessee's linebackers and put them in bad spots. And then, Tennessee gave up what they had not given up all year long, which was, the deep shots over the top. I mean, they gave up 2 30-yard plays and a 29-yard play in the first quarter. Going into that game, Tennessee had given up 30 snaps of 30 yards or more all season long. Giving up 7 snaps of 30 yards or more all season long. So they had not given up the chunk plays like that. And, when it started going downhill, in a bad way. Ohio State's better, particularly at the skill spots. It's the best core of receivers that Tennessee has played. And again, we talked about it. Don't let Will Howard get comfortable. And man, he was comfortable the whole day. Tennessee got no pressure. Those combinations are just a recipe for disaster. And we saw it play out in front of our eyes on Saturday.
So, Brent, with now the transfer portal window that is about to close, with Tennessee that had to recruit the portal and get ready for Ohio State at the same time, it's an abrupt ending, and it's now a very short amount of time where you can just focus on roster acquisition. How difficult of a situation is this for Tennessee, for Indiana, for SMU, and just how much more difficult now is it for, say, a Tennessee versus an LSU and an Auburn that's kind of been able to lick their wounds a little bit, spend a lot of money reportedly in the transfer portal, and spend more time getting ready for 2025?
Well, it's the calendar has to get fixed. What we're doing right now is just not realistic and particularly if you're going to expand the playoffs to include more teams. It just doesn't make any sense. And what the answer is, I don't know, but it has to get fixed to where you can everybody is focused on roster acquisition at the same time. Nobody has a 2-week head start on anybody else or a 3-week head start on anybody else. I mean, think about this. Tennessee got home Sunday morning around 5 a.m. They were in the office before 9 a.m., not getting ready for an opponent. They were getting ready to visit with players to try to close out the roster management on their own team, which has taken all week long. They're still trying to get some things finalized with some current players. And then try to work on guys that you're interested in that haven't visited yet. You're trying to see if they'll hold off and you can get a visit out of them in January. You're trying to see where you are with the 4 visitors that you did have. And you still got 8 teams out there who are preparing for a game against each other. It doesn't make sense from a calendar standpoint. I'm not going to do my whole soapbox this morning, but it has to adjust in some way that you're not dealing with everything the way you are the first 2.5, 3 weeks of December. It's just really, really hard.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3 with us this morning, talking Vols, talking transfer portal, and we're going to talk about the big one here, man. Conversation about the portal with a guy like Nico Iamaleava. I know that's come up in rumors and stuff like that. Where are the Vols with a guy like him?
I mean, as of this morning, they're in good shape. They're fine. It's again, I'm not saying that to suggest that something's going to happen today, because I don't have any reason to believe that there's anything going to happen today. But I think Austin Price on this show has said it, and I'm going to steal his line. I mean, everyone from your third-team punter to your starting quarterback is a free agent. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just the reality. They're a free agent every year. They can ask for more. They can leverage you for more, and you have to make decisions. And that's the world we're living in right now. I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it, and it gets more expensive every year. Where does it end? I don't know. But as of right now, I mean, Nico's Tennessee's quarterback coming back for 25.
Yeah. Brent Hubbs with us this morning. Brent, so the other thing of concern from this past weekend, in my personal opinion, was the offense just didn't look like it had a threat to it. As far as, and I'm not even specifically talking about the playmakers, right, or the players that's out there. I know the wide receivers can use some help, and, of course, the O-line, according to PFF, college didn't do that well either, right? But at what point does the self-evaluation happens for Coach Heupel and his offense, man, to somewhat, let it grow a little bit more legs as to what it's doing? Like maybe not going, sideline to sidelines on alignment, because when you look at the way it was set up, like either you're going quick outs or you're doing a quick comeback and you put the ball in the athlete's hands, but there has to be some pressure from this offense, if you're not going to go fast, that you put on the defense. And I feel like there is a misstep there.
Well, and I think that once you get through tomorrow night, frankly, and you know the bulk of your roster is set, and you've gotten the people that you want back on your roster, settled, and you feel like you're in good shape until the spring portal window opens, I guess. But
so it closes tomorrow.
It closes tomorrow, and then it opens back up for 10 days in April. But, you once you get through tomorrow, I think you feel like your roster is pretty much set for next year, unless, with the exception of a few players you're going to try to add. But I think during this month of January, during this time, I think you'll be on the road recruiting some, going into some schools and seeing some kids. You're not going to be making a bunch of home visits at night. But I think if you're Josh Heupel, you're doing a total deep dive, and you're doing a total self-scout on yourself, a total self-scout on each individual position on the offensive side of the ball. What went well? What's the struggle? What are defenses doing to you that are causing you issues? Is it a, quote, talent problem? Is it some schematic problems? Can you get more creative with different things? This offense evolved this year into a 2 tight end offense. But, tempo is obviously harder, for whatever reason. It's harder to run, it seems now, than it has been in the past. And some of that's, players getting hurt or faking injuries or whatever. Some of that is if a player runs out of bounds and on your side of the field, one of your players does inside the coach's box area, then that's a substitution issue. If a wide receiver gets blocked out of bounds over there, then you go into a substitution issue, which means the official stands over the ball and won't let you snap it, whether you want to go fast or not. How much of those situations come up? How much of it is your decision not to go fast? How much of it is, okay, in-helmet communication slowed us down, or it didn't slow us down? All of that factors into your tempo. And then I think you have to look at what can we do to help free our playmakers up? How many times did we hit a receiver in full stride, either running away from the line of scrimmage or running parallel with the line of scrimmage? Is that something we have to look at? More motions, more shifts. I mean, I don't think this is the, quote, crossroads and they've all figured your offense out and your offense it doesn't work. I don't think you're there, but you have to evolve. Teams are evolving to how they defend you. That's why you don't have as many people running wide open, and you don't have the confusion in the secondary we saw in year 1 and year 2. So what's Josh Heupel's counterpunch to that? And I think that's what quality coaches do, and that's what Josh Heupel, I expect him to do, and what Tennessee's offensive staff will do here over the course of the next few weeks and months, getting ready for spring practice and then ultimately getting ready for the 25 season.
Gotcha. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest joining us as he does every Friday at 7:20. So Hubbs, on the note of that, speaking of that wide receiver core, as you mentioned, the transfer portal closing up tomorrow but will reopen in April. Do you feel like they'll make any moves at that position, or are they happy with what they have with that core?
No, I think, Kayla, when you look at just the bodies that they've lost, I think that you're ultimately going to look certainly to add somebody there or some bodies there, multiple people there potentially. And I think it's a question of what are you looking for? What do you feel like you need? What do you feel like you lack there? Again, is it schematics? Is it all talent? Is it a combination of things? I think you certainly need more of a bigger play threat than what you played with this year. Dante Thornton was your best big play threat, but he was in and out of the lineup because he was hurt. What do you think Chris Brazzell can be for you? Is he a slot guy? Is he an outside guy? Is he going to take the quote next step for you? And I love Brew McCoy. He's one of my favorites of all time. Great guy. There were some limitations on what he could do from a physical standpoint, getting vertical down the field. They've got to find someone who taxes the defense better, can win better at the line of scrimmage in one-on-one situations, and you can free them up and get them going and get them moving in the right way. So, yeah, I think they absolutely will look hard in the transfer portal at receivers. There's been a lot of receivers in the portal. A lot of guys have made some choices elsewhere, but we'll see who else goes into portal today. Mm-hmm. And remember, anybody in the playoffs, after they get beat, they've got a 5-day window they can go in the portal.
Okay.
So next week, let's say Boise State gets beat. Any Boise State player has a 5-day window to go in the portal next week. Anybody who loses in the next round of the playoffs has an additional 5-day portal that their coaching staff has to manage with their roster, because any player can go. They've got 5 days after you get beat to go if the portal's already closed.
That's a good little nugget, Brent. Brent Hubbs joining us of VolQuest this morning. Speaking of the portal, what's the latest on the Northwestern offensive lineman transfer, Josh Thompson? I hear it's kind of like a 3-team race right now. And what are you feeling like with Tennessee's chances?
Well, that one, he was set to go to Tennessee on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that one was done. I think he had let Tennessee know that they were going to be the school of choice, and I think when word got out that that's where everything was trending to, I think his agent's phone blew up significantly. Lots of phone calls, and I think LSU has come in with a really really high offer because he's a big priority for them, just as he was for Tennessee. And then I think the question is, what's Tennessee's what's their counter? Is it going to be close to that, or does Tennessee feel like, that they don't want to pay that much for a guard when they're looking at other things out there? I mean, this is true free agency, right? I mean, it's one of those deals where do you want to go versus who's offered you the most money, Ramon? And is this, as he said it to me when he left Knoxville, I'm on a 1-year rental. Okay, it's 12 months. So for 12 months, do you take, a couple $100,000 more at one place versus another, or do you go somewhere where you think you may be the happiest for 12 months? That's a personal decision, and we'll see what he comes to. I think we'll hear that decision later today, and if I were guessing right now, I think it's probably going to be LSU ultimately.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest on 3, your guest this morning on Ramon, Kale, and Will. Brent, we've talked since the beginning of NIL about how Tennessee's collective and NIL part of their organization is as good as there is in college athletics. Is it fair to say other teams like an LSU, like an Auburn, have caught up to Tennessee in that regard? Or are situations like this simply more a result of, hey, we don't want to pay this kind of money because we've got a number in our heads and we're not willing to go over that? Where is the truth within kind of those two different ideas?
That's a great question. And I think the one thing about Tennessee early on, and why Tennessee was perceived to be the best out there, Tennessee was more organized than everybody was going early on. Tennessee had one collective. At one point, Florida had 3 or 4. LSU had a couple of different collectives. And, all these schools were just these little pop-up things going everywhere. Tennessee was always at one collective. There was one group handling everything at Tennessee. That allowed them to be more organized. That allowed the money to be pooled all into one place very early on. So Tennessee's advantage early on in the process was they were just more organized and had all the resources in one place. What's happened now is everybody has gotten down to one collective at their respective schools. And everybody is this, or not everybody, but the schools that have the money and have the strong fan base and the donor base, once they've gotten themselves organized, they've gotten their pool of money up, and everybody's working in somewhat of a similar pool of money. Now, here's the thing we don't know about the money. We don't know exactly what the number is, right? I mean, allegedly, Ohio State spent somewhere between $20 and $22 million for the team they have on the field right now. I don't know if that number is 100% accurate or not, but that's the rumored number. Ole Miss, $20 million. I think Tennessee was closer to $15 million this past year. The amount of money being spent on football rosters is more than doubled the last 2 years. It's going up this year as well. So, it does get down to, at the end of the day, when you're trying you don't have a, quote, salary cap, but you do have a limitation in the number of dollars that you have possession of. Okay? I mean, that's the reality of it. You're not passing go and getting an extra $200 every day to add to your bucket. I mean, there is a number that is a real number. And I think you have to decide as an organization, what are you slotting for what? Okay? And somebody's value is based on how much somebody will pay them. Okay? Say you have a player in the portal that you like and you're willing to pay, let's say $400,000. But player or school X is in a dire need for that position. I mean, and that's their target person that you're battling against. And they need that person so bad, they're going to give them $800,000. Well, then you have a choice. Are you going to compete financially, or do you say, we need a player there, but we're not that desperate for a player there. We're not going to match their offer. That's the world we're living in. I mean, we can call it whatever we want to call it, but that's the bidding war that's taking place right now. And everybody's got an agent, and everybody's trying to play one against another to get the amount of money that they can get. And organizations are trying to get a handle on this. It's funny because there's a lot of people, and I'm rambling here, but there's a lot of people talking about general managers. Oh, you got to have a general manager for football, which I don't necessarily disagree with. My question is, in college football, who's qualified to be a general manager? Anybody that's worked in NFL front office is dealing with multi-year contracts, salary caps. Hey, we got this guy for a 3-year deal. We don't have to worry about him for 3 years. Okay? On the college side of things, you got to recruit your player every year, some cases every month, to keep them there. You don't have a salary cap to deal with. So how qualified is an NFL person to be a college GM? Conversely, who in the college space is qualified to deal with the money side of it that they're dealing with for the first time? It is very much a learning curve in the college game right now. And those who learn the best, the quickest, are going to manage this thing better. Just like Tennessee was out of the gates faster than everybody else from a collective standpoint because they had experienced guys and they were organized. That's where college football is in terms of roster management right now.
Hey, Hubbs.
It's a great way to put it.
There was this old system where we used to watch television on this box. It was called cable, right? It was called cable, and you got a lot of channels, and you just flip through them, and you bought your packages in one place. And then there's this thing called the internet, to where you could buy subscriptions to different apps, and you could watch movies on those. essentially what I'm saying is it looked like we're going to eventually go back to the old system to where now all these streaming apps are in one place again, and it's essentially cable again. I feel like at some point they're going to have to shut down this operation of transfer anytime because there's no stability in it whatsoever. Like, it's going to have to be 2 and 3 year deals that are given. And I say deals and not scholarships because that's what's most frustrating about it for all parties involved right now. We're going back to cable. We just happen to call it YouTube TV right now. Tubi TV right now is all I'm saying.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Here's the problem with that. One, how are you going to get everybody in college football united? Because I promise you the Big Ten's viewpoint on things versus the SEC's is slightly different. Okay, the Big Ten and the SEC's viewpoint is largely different than the Big 12 and the ACC. So who's going to be the czar? Who's going to be the person that's the commissioner that organizes it? What are you going to do about collective bargaining? What are you going to do about antitrust? Are you going to put them on as contract employees at the university, or are they going to be legitimate full-time employees at the university? Let's get out of this NIL and just call it what it is. It's pay for play. But how do you get all of that organized? That you go to a player and say, hey, here's your deal. You have to play a certain percentage of the snaps to get your deal. If you don't, then outside of an injury, if for some reason you're not playing, then you need this. And, oh, by the way, if you want to leave, you're going to have to pay back money owed to us when you leave. That's your buyout for leaving. Okay, all of that sounds great. Okay, that's a protector. Players still have their leverage and still get paid. Schools have their protection and a little leverage back. Who's organizing it?
Me.
I mean,
There you go. There you go.
Me.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like who is going to be in there that is not going to have a bias towards something, that's smart enough and can manage this and work all this out? Let's look at things. The NFL is doing very well, right? Highly successful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's not well liked, but the commissioner's not bad in the NFL. How's baseball going?
Right.
How's baseball doing? How's their commissioner doing these days?
Ugh.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, where's the NBA right now? It ain't where David Stern had it a few years ago, right? So like who is that person that's going to run it and get it moving into a brand new world that's vastly different? I will say this. If it is not just football, it's college athletics. If they don't get some control over it, you're going to see more of what you saw at Miami in basketball yesterday with the head coach going, you know what? I'm done, guys. I just can't do this anymore. This is not what I signed up for. Now, I know he's an older gentleman, but, I mean, look what happened with Tony Bennett at Virginia. I just can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's what's going to continue to happen till you get some kind of control. The question is, how do they get organized enough to get some kind of regulation and guardrails in place? We've been talking about guardrails for 3 years. Okay, they haven't even site surveyed to put a guardrail yet, much less bring out a crew to start putting some guardrails down. Okay, we don't have any idea where to put the guardrail right now.
Outstanding stuff as always with Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's at On 3 this morning here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Great way to sum it up. It is we could spend the entire show today just talking about guardrails in college athletics and NIL. Brent, we appreciate you, sir. Have a happy new year, and we will talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
Thanks,
Yes,
Hubbs.
sir.
You
Brent
too.
Hubbs of VolQuest's at On 3 joining us. Brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. That is why I think I always tell people, even if you're not a Vols fan, you got to still tune in for Brent Hubbs. All of this is applicable to your
Great perspective.
program. And I think the answer on Tennessee and NIL and everyone else catching up is really interesting and I think makes a lot of sense. To be honest with you as well. 615-737-1045 is the number. Today kind of feels like the first day where all the bowl games are kind of big and are teams that you've heard of. And you know their logos and you know where the game is actually being played. We'll run through some of those, including the local game coming up.